Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to Furconaissance, the podcast where we talk about everything Furcon and the furry fandom as a whole. My name is Jack, joined by my co-host, my partner in crime here, Scruff. Scruff, how's your day going?
It's going really well.
Excellent. Well, we're obviously, you can tell based on the purple cat sitting right next to me that we've got a very special guest today. But before we get to that, I just have to touch on a couple of housekeeping items, most notably the results from the first con that we talked about on our last episode, which was the Eufuria Furcon that took place in Albany, New York. That one came in, the original number that was reported for that con, they came in and they said it was 1,194 people in attendance. So by that tentative number, you could say my guess was closer, whatever. I think the bigger takeaway here is that both of us were within margin of error on actually guessing the correct figure of attendance, which I thought was really cool. But they also came out and said that it was about 1,200, and WikiFur is not updated with that correct number. So that might be subject to change. But for now, our little score here, is 1-0 Jack over Scruff.
Yes, Jack won.
Yeah, well, whoop-de-doo. Well, maybe. They're still counting.
Like 10 people, Jack won.
But anyway, originally we were going to have a couple cons to talk about today, but we realized Megaplex kind of deserves its own show. It's the fourth biggest con by attendance. It's based down in Florida, and it's honestly the one that people get hot for. So we figured who would be a great guest to have about that? Well, honestly, I couldn't think of anybody better in this case than Astra, which you see right next to me. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, sir? Tell us about yourself.
Meow meow. Hello. Thank you, Jack. Hi everyone. My name is sorry. Hey everybody. Oh god. Anyway, hi. My name is Astra. I'm a content creator in the furry fandom. I make short form little interviews that people can follow me on all my fun social pages on TikTok and Instagram and all that fun stuff. I also vend at Dealer's Den at the 4 biggest conventions, and I staff for both Megaplex and Anthrocon. So anything about Furcons, about data, about running them behind the scenes, about being guest of honor at some of the smaller ones, I'm your cat, and I'd love to answer your questions and have some fun chats, because I love just watching how the furry fandom grows and how certain changes affect certain cons and how some cons do things right, some do some things not so well. So I would love to talk about this. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. I just can't believe that you're actually sitting here, because like when I've been in the fandom since 95, but I reactivated last year, like really in depth. And actually one of your videos is the reason why I have the tattoo that I have. You actually were interviewing people. I forget which con it was at, but you were interviewing people, asking them, do your parents know that you're a furry? And the second being that you interviewed said, well, yeah, me and my mom have matching tattoos. It was Blaze. And so there was like, then you kind of, zoomed in on it. I actually have a screenshot of that, which is what I actually gave to the tattoo artist.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that con was that was Fernal Equinox of 2025. And that was the first time I asked that question to a friend. And that actually is one of my most popular videos. I want to say that's like number 3 or number 4. So it actually spawned a lot of good friendships. Like in the beginning, a very good friend of mine, her name is Riley. Her hook was, sadly, but yes, which, oh man, that was like the best hook I could ever ask for anybody. And because of that, I started DMing her, and we're amazing friends. But yeah, so that, I know exactly who you're talking about with the little paw print and the rainbow. Yep. I love that video a lot. That's such a good story. I love that, Scruff. Meow.
So kind of to tie you in, to give everybody an idea of what your general experience is, obviously you're you're kind of on the Mount Rushmore of the fandom at this point in time. You're very close on your silver play button, by the way. I saw that. Congratulations in advance.
Thank you.
Over on YouTube, yeah. And then on top of that, I know you were saying you have your own merch line, you're vending at cons, obviously you're a content creator, you're fursuiting everywhere. My main question is, of all the things that you kind of do at once at one con, whether it's staffing, vending, not necessarily what's the most fun, because I mean, fursuiting, that's like a cheap answer, right? But what are you getting the most satisfaction from? Like, what do you think, like, okay, this is, if I could only do one thing for the rest of my life, at least I feel like my purpose is really fulfilled doing this?
Ooh, that's a really good question, actually. See, I like that a lot. For that, I would have to say would just be filming content at cons. It's gotten to the point now where the biggest change I would say when I first started filming my little silly interviews versus now is before I had to find people that were looked in cool fursuits or had cool jobs or even like send cold DMs and hope they answered me like, hey, I know you're big in the fandom for doing, fashion or even vending or making fursuits. Can I please interview you at cons? But now people approach me and I don't have to do that. So when it comes to that, and the people that tell me they joined the fandom because of my videos, or I showed my mom your videos and she now accepts me for who I am as a furry, or, I flew all the way to Megaplex from Brazil just to meet you. It's like, Jesus, that's impactful, but hell yeah, let's go. So I love that. So definitely vending is a lot of fun because it helps me pay for all the cons I go to and just actually have a dedicated point to meet people. And also staffing is a lot of fun too. But I would say, like I said, yeah, filming content is the best thing in my opinion that I like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know you've already touched on this in other places, but I'll rehash this one just in case. How do you exactly get into staffing for both Megaplex and Anthrocon? Because that seems like that you don't just apply for something like that, I assume.
Well, you can. So there's the way that most people join staff, and then there's the way that I join staff, because there's an interesting story with that one. So most people, the way they join staff is you start by volunteering. You give a few hours of your con up to help them out with certain things. And when people think staffing, they think, oh, I'm going to be stuck behind the registration table all con and not going to have any fun. Or I'm going to be, wearing a safety vest and just standing in one spot for the dehydrated person to ask me where the water is. Furthest from the truth. There's almost, I would say, more than half of jobs that happen at a con or staffing needs to happen before the con or after the con. That's where the biggest lift comes from. Me, I'm on social media and PR for both Megaplex and Anthrocon, and also on public outreach for Anthrocon. And so, like most people, they start by volunteering. They give a few of their hours to something, either, like I said, during the con or after the con. And then if you do it enough, you meet the right amount of people, and they offer you to be a staffer, which comes with its own really, really nice perks, such as, priority at the hotel block. Some of you might get discounts, you get free meals, you get really cool merch, you get to skip lines, stuff like that. My story's different. So, Megaplex of 2025, I was ready to go, just like normal. I was ready to film my interviews and have a great time. And then a few days before the con, I noticed they may have sent out a tweet that essentially said, hey, everyone, just a reminder, due to Megaplex's media policy this year, nobody is allowed to film interviews at the con, no exception. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a problem because that's my bread and butter. I normally, need Megaplex to film interviews because I stick to a posting schedule of 2 interviews every single week, and it's my break between Anthrocon and MFF, so therefore I need to get that content in. Also, I'll be at a con, people are going to ask me for an interview, and I don't want to tell, 100 plus of them, sorry, I can't. So I DM'd my good friend Nero and said, hey, what's up? And they told me that because of issues they've had in the past where Twitch streamers were infiltrating the con and people were harassing others through interviews, they did not want to take the time to develop a media policy that other cons like Anthrocon have. They didn't have enough time or the resources for it. So therefore, as a whole big blanket, no interviews allowed. And I'm like, that sucks, but okay, I understand. And then I asked him, I said, is that it? And he's like, well, there is an option. I said, what is it?
Tell me more.
And he told me that there is an opening that they need some help with the social media and the PR team. And if I wanted to join staff, they would allow me to be the sole person in all of Megaplex to film interviews. And I'm like, okay, yes, never staffed a con. I already vend. I film my content. But you know what? Let's add more to this plate. There's plenty of room on there. So I joined. I helped them with what they needed. I helped make social media posts. I helped get the word out for certain things. I helped make press releases, all that fun stuff. And then on the Thursday of Megaplex that year, the Thursday before the con, they literally had a staff meeting a Thursday afternoon where they had me get on stage and said, hey, everyone, every staff member of Megaplex, nobody in the con is allowed to film interviews. You see anyone filming, shut it down immediately, except this guy. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. So that happened. And then at the end of Megaplex, my lead, who's a good guy named KP, shout out to KP, said, hey, Astra, I wanted to ask you something. You did such a good job here at Megaplex. We could use you over at Anthrocon. Do you want to staff there too? And Anthrocon, they allow interviews if you apply ahead of time. I've already applied and gotten media passes the years prior, whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't really know. I'm not too sure. I'm kind of busy. And he said, you know that if you get in the staff block, you don't have to get silver sponsor for register for it to get main hotel. And I'm like, sold! So, for those out there, if you, Anthrocon, if you're not in the main hotel, it's very inconvenient if you're not a fursuiter. And to get in the main hotel, typically it's a lot easier if you're a silver sponsor, which is $350. So I will be very happy to not pay that. And also it's nice just giving back to the con as well. So that also in the perks it comes with, and being able to be part of a great team with OC and also KP. So that is how I got voluntold to be staff at Anthrocon.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now what's funny is that was just 3 years after you first even joined the fandom.
For the most part, yeah. So I joined the fandom in Megaplex of 2022 when I was dragged there against my will, and I became staff at both of them that was last year. So that was 2025. Yeah. So 3 years.
That's amazing. So kind of as we pointed out in the last time, and we gave people in our first episode 0 kind of mine and Jack's background as to why they should be listening. So obviously, I think it's pretty obvious why also having Astra here is an expert really on cons. How many cons did you go to last year?
This year I'm doing 9. So Megaplex will be my 8 of 9, and MFF will be my 9 of 9. And then the year before that, I want to say I did 6, I think. So I'm in the high 20s, low 30s right now of total cons been to since Megaplex of 22.
Yeah, that definitely
my number is
qualifies
pretty
you as
high,
expert.
but it's not that high in Furcons because mine are all like PAX East, PAX West, TwitchCon, that sort of thing. Because I
don't count anime cons.
New.
If I did, I'd be even higher.
No, those are not. They're not quite anime. They're like gamer side cons more than anything else. I used to do Twitch under a different name, but anyway, Scruff, you were saying. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying. So we're talking about Megaplex, and so one of the things we did not talk about last time with any of the cons was really any kind of analysis or evaluation about who the guests of honor are. Yes, and so we have Paleo Games coming in. We've got the dinosaur theme, obviously, that's going on this year at Megaplex 2026. So, and I'm probably going to butcher these names, and I apologize, but we've got Dr. Nathan Barling and Dr. Mike O'Sullivan. This is an England and Ireland-based paleontologist, each respectively. And they are co-creators of a tabletop D&D. I don't know much about D&D, so you're gonna have to help me out here.
So they host a lot of, or they posted a lot of different Kickstarters back in the day as well as today, where they will often try to put out different, either dragon or dinosaur or that sort of thing themed, either like tabletop games by themselves or like expansions for Pathfinder, expansions for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, that sort of thing. And almost every time, I was actually really surprised. I found one Kickstarter where they had to cancel. It only hit 70% of its goal, but pretty much every other one that I've ever seen from them has somewhere in the neighborhood of like 700%, 1,000% funded, that sort of thing.
Wow.
It'll be funded like 7, 8, 9, 10 times more. And when people do that on Kickstarter, they'll usually have like super intricate, like, oh, these are all the different extra perks you get. They've got to be well beyond even their gold platinum sponsor status of things every time they do it, pretty much. So the other guest of honor we had here was Straya Obscura. They're a dragon-themed artist, illustrator, and product designer. They like to add a lot of merch that's dragon-themed, and they put things like, effectively con fanny pack stuff that would go really well in a fursuit. Funnily enough, I know as a staff member, you're not necessarily on the committee that picks, who would be the guest of honor. But if it is, like, let's pretend it's AstraCon here, it's your con that you're making all the decisions for. Where would you go into making the decision of like, okay, we want like a Poppy Fur this year, or guest of honor, or we want someone who's on theme, we want someone who's, in the sciences, on someone who's in the arts. How do you believe someone would come about making that kind of decision? Because there's so many people to choose from with something like this.
For sure. So that's actually a really great question. So in my opinion, when you think about a guest of honor for a con, it's all about ROI, return on investment. So first off, for those who don't know, a guest of honor at a con is somebody that they pick to promote the con, and in turn, the con promotes the guest of honor, and in return, the guest of honor promotes the con. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're a small rural convention in, I'm going to name state, Idaho. Sure, you're a brand new convention in Idaho. You're going to have a couple hundred people there. Therefore, for them, it would make a lot of sense to invite one of the bigger names from the furry fandom that normally would not go to your convention. Somebody who's big and known on social media, or somebody who's had a big impact, somebody that people want to meet, but the locals may not necessarily go to the bigger cons that they normally go to. Because, if you go to Anthrocon for example, yes, I will be at Anthrocon. God willing, I will be at Anthrocon next year. But there's 20,000 people there. To find me, it's going to be very difficult for you to find me, get a little one-on-one time with me, be in a video, just chat with me, whatever. But if you go to this random made-up Idaho convention where there's 300 to 500 people, and I'm one of them, it's going to be very hard to miss me, especially because I'm contractually obliged to host these panels, to be shooting this amount of hours of the day, to, be the face of the con. So therefore, with your original question is, do you pick a poppy fur or do you pick somebody who's themed to the con or, makes an impact outside of the fandom? In my opinion, it all comes down to, what does the con need? Do they need to promote it to get more people to come, or are they satisfied with their attendance numbers? Bigger cons like Megaplex, like MFF, like Anthrocon. Actually, Anthrocon doesn't even do Guest of Honor anymore, and actually I know why, but we'll talk about that later. But the main thing of that is that they don't need a big name to attach to it, because if you are big in the fandom, quote unquote, you're probably going to be there regardless. So what sense does it make for them to spend the money to pay for your airfare, for your food, for your hotel, when they're already going to have you there, if not have people that are comparable that are going to be walking around? So that's where my school of thought is. So if you have a con where you're kind of fine with attendance, you're up in there, you really don't need the headline star of Astra coming to your convention, then go with somebody outside the fandom that normally wouldn't be there. Get a paleontologist, get a bunch of DJs or a music artist like the Living Tombstones that FWA had one year. Get something like that where it's like, dang, I wasn't going to do FWA, but wow, Pitbull's going to be there. Now I got to go. You know what I mean? So first off, that would be awesome. Pitbull, please come to a convention. Oh, God, I'd love to meet him so much. But for... Exactly, but the smaller cons, for example, I was just guest of honor at Brazil Fur Fest, which is a con in Brazil, and to be honest with you, while I had an absolutely amazing time, it was so cool getting drunk with Uncle Kage and having an amazing time, I probably would not have gone if they were not paying for my airfare, because it's just very expensive for me, and when I go to 9 cons per year, I really have to pick and choose which ones I go to, and also a lot of that is which are going to be the cheapest for me to go to. Megaplex is a 2-hour drive. A ticket to Brazil round trip in Florida is about $1,000 USD. So when it comes down to it, it's all about that. And when, people heard that Astra was going to be there, they had people flying in from Cuba, from Chile, from Argentina, telling me, I came here just to meet you. So in my opinion, that's kind of where my school of thought goes. Now, as I said before, though, I've never been on the committee that actually picks the guest of honor or even has a vote in it. But when it comes down to the short list, cons typically look for, if they're picking for popular people like myself, like any big name TikTok star, they want people that have a good upstanding reputation in the fandom without too many controversies. They want people that do a lot for charity, or just, will uplift the con as much as they uplift themselves, if that makes sense. So that's my ticket. I hope I didn't speak too much on that.
No, that's amazing. And that actually gives us a lot to look at when we look at future statistics for future cons.
I was just going to say...
It was actually our friend Sawdeye that runs a whole bunch of different podcasts that actually said, you should probably look at this as an analytic measure too, is who is the guest of honor, and different things like that. And so this will help Jack and me in moving ahead.
For sure.
You mentioned Uncle Kage, and I just, how many people did you have to interview before you actually got the answer of cockroach?
Oh my God.
I found that highly surprising.
The first one got it. I was so pissed. Oh my God. So for reference, for those who didn't see my video, I posted a video on Anthrocon that the first video I ever actually had to spend money on outside of equipment was where I asked people, like a little trivia style show, that I actually got the idea from the Bartcast, for $100, what species is Uncle Kage? And if you've been in the fandom for quite some time, you know the answer right off the top of your head. He's a cockroach. So I decided, let's ask people. And so the first person I asked knew it. So I had to give them the money, obviously. I'm not going to, say, oh, JK. No, of course, I'm going to give them money. So for the rest, okay, so this is actually be a little bit of behind the scenes stuff that most people, I haven't told anybody about this yet. So you guys got to keep this quiet. The rest, because I already spent the $100, I didn't want to have to give $100 to every single person that answered it. So I changed the question. I kept it the same. Well, I changed the reward. The question was the same, but everyone else after that was, for a sticker, what species is Uncle Kage? So yes, the first person got the sticker and they gave me a dagger, and then everybody else, I asked them what species. And the thing is also, I had to have the first person I asked had to get it wrong, and the last person I asked had to get it right. So I did have to offer the money to one other person. And before I asked them the question, before the camera's rolling, I said, how many Anthrocons have you been to? And they said, this is my first. I said, Perfect. Okay. So if they answered right as the second person, I obviously would have given them another 100. But yes, the first person I asked knew the answer, so I was so angry.
That's funny.
So I don't know if you recorded more people than well. I mean, I assume with audio, because you've said in the past when people have bought audio and stuff, you give them an interview in the future and then you don't include it. How many people do you think you interviewed for that question in general after the fact to get the amount of people that we saw in the video, and how many of them knew the answer off the top of their head without help?
Great question. Yeah. So I on an average con, I film about 50 to 60 interviews. It's actually gone up because now I'm doing a lot more compilation style, which is quicker, even though it requires more people to interview. But I would say that question I asked, I want to say probably 60 people. And out of that 60, I would probably say about 15 to 20 knew the right answer. And obviously, if you knew the right answer, I didn't include your footage. But if you didn't know the answer, then I pretty much included your answer, unless there were audio issues, or I couldn't understand you, or the mic got in the way. You know, there's a plethora of reasons why I don't post people's answers. It always pains me, like, oh, you never posted my interview. I'm like, I'm sorry, but this happened. But I always tell people, if I don't post your interview, I would love to give you another try. Just let me know at a con, or I'll even send you your footage if you want. But I can't post everybody's interview because there's about maybe half to a third really don't see the light of day in one way or another. But except my end of the year video where I do my big little run through every interview I've ever filmed that year, I always try to include every single person's clip in there because it's just video, not audio. And even if your interview sucked, I can still do a quick 1 second, give me a hug. You know what I mean? So yeah,
that's amazing. So going back to Megaplex, we've talked about the guests of honor. And I think it really kind of goes into the core of what Megaplex is. Obviously, it's got the theme this year. If I had to sum up, and keeping in mind this is just my outside research, I've talked to some people who have been at Megaplex, including a guest of honor from last year, who's one of my best friends. And if I had to really summarize it just from what I know about it, it's a performance-rooted con based in Orlando, Florida, that grew basically into what is, in my opinion, a mega con now. But it never left the hotel format. It has never had to leave the hotel yet. And I think that is part of why it just continues to have the growth that it has. So like just some of the numbers, now this is where we get a little nerdy. 2002, when it started, you had 126 people when it started in Orlando. They tried the experiment in Jacksonville. Their attendance actually dropped a little bit there. They came back to the Kissimmee area, and then they eventually came back to Orlando. 2025's attendance, 10,038. That's massive. 1,000 people in their main parade, and then another couple hundred that were in their evening parade. There was obviously some overlap. I mean, it's just continuing to grow. When you look at this on a graph, it's like a hockey stick. Like it's just going up exponentially. And I think a lot of it is that roots. You mentioned KP before. This grew out of the Sunday Paw Pet show, correct? Is where Megaplex's roots really start.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, the aspect of performance is not just a side note or a panel here and there. It's like the puppetry, the performance, even like with the external things like the D&D games and things like that. Like this all just fits together just exceptionally well. Also, being in Orlando, so many hotels to pick from. You've got this great Hyatt, and I think it really exploded up when Megaplex hit the Hyatt for the first time. And then you also have that 18 plus draw. As we pointed out just in our research so far, I'm only aware of 3 in the United States now. I used to think it was 2 that are at least 18 plus or over. So we just talked about Eufuria. Eufuria is 18 plus. Megaplex is 18 plus. And then you have LVFC out in Vegas that is 21 plus. And so I think that also brings in a significant draw.
I'm glad you mentioned the hotel, and I'm sure we'll speak about this when we talk about location-based. But as somebody like that, I've gone to a plethora of conventions across the country and even outside the country. I've been to Canada, I've been to Sweden, now I've been to Brazil. In my opinion, Megaplex is one of the only cons that has it made when it comes to location. And what I mean by that is, if you have either of you been to Megaplex personally on the boots on the ground, or no? Maybe
I have not. I have been to that hotel in my day-to-day job.
Okay.
I've been in that hotel in my day-to-day job, but never to Megaplex.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's a great con. Also, by the way, 10 out of 10 recommend Megaplex. But regardless of that, when you think about other big cons like MFF, like FWA, like Anthrocon, they are boxed out. And what I mean by that is they are going, and if they've not already hit it, which MFF has hit this a long time ago, they are out of space. There is no more hotels, and it's luck of the draw. If you get a good hotel, you're going to have a great con. If you don't, you are SOL. Megaplex has the blessing, and they got that Hyatt, which, again, it's a whole big story about how they finally got the Hyatt. But they have so much room to grow, it's not even funny. While, yes, the Hyatt is sold out, of course. Number one, the Hyatt is building 2 of the massive towers to add to it. But you also have not only about 6 more giant hotels right next to it, you have the Orange County Convention Center right next to it, connected to the main hotel via a sky bridge. That is one of the largest convention centers in the world, to the point where there is an anime convention there called MegaCon, which happens every year. Do you know MegaCon's attendance?
I do.
It's got to be close. If it's anything like a Penny Arcade Expo kind of thing, it's got to be at least 100,000 people.
It is between 100 to 200,000 people comfortably. Yeah. It is insane. I've never seen. Right. I went there once. I've never seen more people in my life. Of course, it's wall to wall, and it's an anime con, so I'm not a huge fan of them. But I'm just seeing that because Megaplex already is in talks, and I believe in 2027 they are going to hopefully be moving registration and possibly dealer's den to the Orlando Convention Center. So they already have the contracts in place. They're still figuring out the logistics, so it's nothing completely written in stone, but it will happen. They have the room to grow, and while they already have sold out the Hyatt and most of the Rosen, and I think that the Crown as well, there's around another 10 hotels because they're all the hotels there for the convention center. So they're going to turn that whole little downtown corridor into essentially Anthrocon. While it is hot as hell out there, it will happen, and they have the room to grow. It's not like Anthrocon where every hotel in the like 3-4 blocks are booked up, or MFF where every hotel in Rosemont is completely booked up. They have the room to grow, which is such an incredible honor that it's really unlike any other con out there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that, which I'm going to flash the graph on. For those of you who are watching by video format, you can see the graph right here, and this is kind of what the attendance has looked like since the con has started. Obviously, you'll notice the little missing number 20 there. Obviously, we had this thing called COVID, so obviously that doesn't apply, so we just don't even use it in the data. But as you can see here by their graph, they're one of the handful of cons at this point that seems to be going parabolic in their size. And especially one of our big concerns with doing research on this episode was, so Megaplex is in this kind of like, imagine like just car analogy, you're out of the main flow of traffic and there's a couple people that have been sped ahead of you for a while, but you're all by yourself right now. There's no one within 1,000 attendees plus or minus of Megaplex right now. They're in their own lane. They control their own destiny. They don't have to care what anybody else is doing right now. That being said, what you just said about the whole point of the other 3 cons makes us realize, because we were doing this too. We thought Anthrocon full on hit cap when we were doing forecasting when I was doing forecasting for it, and they kind of did. It was like 20,600 or something like that. So it was barely over the line of 20K. I don't see a reason, looking at this graph and based on what you just said, why Megaplex isn't going to shoot to the number 1 within the next 5 years. I know that's a little aggressive of a statement, but I don't see any other con that's growing by 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people in attendance per year. Like, that just isn't something I've seen so far.
I mean, the 2025 jump alone was enormous, and it's the second year in a row they've had this kind of jump. Like in 2024, you had 7,202 people. 2025, you had the 10,038. So I mean, that's adding just over 2,800 people. That's like 40%, or just 39 point, some decimals growth, and that's consistent. Like when you look at the even between 2023 and 2024, it was around the same type of growth, and so I don't know if this one actually is going to plateau off. Like, I think it really...
Not only that, too, but you guys are also ignoring the other thing, too, which comes to accessibility. Pittsburgh Airport is not known for having a lot of flights, especially international ones, where MCO, Orlando International Airport, is one of the biggest when it comes to vacation tourism and cheap flights, because everyone wants to go to Disney and Universal. Not only that, too, but the main hotel, the Westin at Anthrocon, is, I want to say, close to $350 to $400 per night for a tiny room. The rooms in the Hyatt in Megaplex are massive and about, I want to say, $250 per night. It is cheap to go to Megaplex. So when you think about the dollar per value as well.
It was even cheaper. Like a standard king room was somewhere around $150. It was like
and then $175, I think, for the 2 queen.
Yeah, it's dirt cheap. It is dirt cheap to go to Megaplex.
And with Orlando and two, it comes with parking on one of on the first ticket.
Free parking as well. Yep.
So you can get a second parking for $15. This is not like an ad. I'm just pointing out that that's insanely good. accessibility, insanely good value to get to the con in the first place. I mean, my home con of Las Vegas, if you want to park anywhere other than like, good luck finding a spot at the Alexis, but if you want to go anywhere else, then you're paying upwards of like $30 to $40 a day for parking. Whereas if you're just going in Orlando, you can make it nice and easy for $15. That's insane. It's a very drivable city compared to some of these other con locations, and you're not stuck on the eastern seaboard, so you're not dealing with like an urban sprawl that goes from like 4 states over and is bumper to bumper traffic the entire way.
Jack, my buddy paid $340 for parking at FWA just in the main hotel so his car wouldn't be broken into.
Oh, no.
I absolutely believe that. Now,
Yeah.
the question that I have for you, Astra, is because since you have that boots on the ground knowledge, you've obviously been to Megaplex before. Myself and Jack have not. I've seen what the hotel looks like. I've been to lots of things at the Orange County Convention Center. But so the Hyatt's huge. It's large. It's like 315,000 square feet of meeting space. It's got like 1,641 rooms and everything. Their largest ballroom, though, can only comfortably hit around 4,000 people, give or take, based on what I've seen. Unless they have the ability to reconfigure things. Like actually in the Hyatt, you can hold about 4,000. Well, for a con that hit 10,000, does that create any kind of logistical problems? Or to me, it seems like the bottleneck in general there would be movement. Or, like getting people, like if everybody wants to go to the opening ceremony, you can't fit 10,000 people in the opening ceremony. So
For
how
sure.
is that
And
handled?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that Megaplex has too much of an issue in that sense, because Megaplex is not like Anthrocon, where 3/4 of the con wants to go and to watch the opening ceremonies. And heck, even the raves at Megaplex, while they are put on by some fantastic DJs and good friends of mine, and I know so many great people on the AV team, they never get busy. You'll never find like an FWA style rave at Megaplex when it comes to attendance, because most people are going to be there for other reasons. Megaplex is not big when it comes to opening and closing ceremonies. They're not massive on theming. They're not massive on, the dance competition or floor wars. Those of course exist and people can go to them if they want to, but Megaplex is there because think of it as a big summer vacation for furries. People are there to go to the pool, they're there to go to panels, and they're there for room parties, which the Hyatt is really accommodating for. It's not like LVFC where you can go to the Spam with Subi party at 2 a.m. By the way, love LVSC. First time I went this year. Seriously, in my opinion, #1 con in the States. But besides the point of that, we'll talk about that later. Megaplex doesn't really have that issue. Now, the only problem that they had last year, which was a massive problem that we're hopefully going to fix this year, is registration. They really did not have the amount of staffing they needed, plus a lot of technical issues where the reg line was very long, more than any other con I've seen, and even existed. Like the line throughout the main concourses existed till like Friday late and even early evening, I want to say. It really was there. Like it was wild. But outside of that, the line for dealers, it moves once it's open. There really isn't a line for dealers after, the original rush of people. There's never a line for the rave. There's never really a line for opening ceremonies. It's because the Hyatt is so massive that people spread out. And while you are going to find, maybe 1,000 people partying it up on Saturday night at the rave, you're going to find probably another 5,000 to 10,000 just going to the various room parties that they have throughout the con. So it does a really good job when it comes to traffic flow. Not to mention, too, I know so many friends that it's like, oh, Saturday night, let's go to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal. Let's go to Disney. Because, again, while the con is there, you are in Orlando. You can literally see the Disney fireworks from your hotel. A lot of the rooms have views of Epic Universe at Universal. It's because you're right there in the heart of the tourism corridor in Orlando. So there's a lot of things to do, and go off-site. There's plenty of food options. It's not like you're stuck there on an island. You're in Orlando. So in my opinion, that's not really that big of an issue.
I was going to say, what's the social geometry at Megaplex like? Like, for example, the one thing I'll say about AC is because of the problem, as you stated with the hotels, I tend to be someone that goes for more of the social aspect when I go to cons. So, like, my favorite so far that I've been to this year has really been TFF. It was a single hotel. Almost everybody was in the single hotel. You were in one of 3 towers. We all came together in the middle. And I could just vibe in the lobby. I could vibe in that second floor hallway or in the main con area. Someone I knew eventually would come along and kind of kidnap me and take me wherever, and we'd go do things. At AC, it was almost the polar opposite. Like, if you did not have a plan, you had not made out a schedule, you didn't know who was going to be where when, you're not going to find them. So what is that like at Megaplex?
So Megaplex is more like the TFF style. The way that it works is you have the main hotel and then you have a couple of satellites, but again, the only reason people are in the satellites is because they couldn't get main, and they might be in the pool in the satellites, but the main pool is where it's popping off. So during the day, outside of, again, the pool where everyone's trying to get to, there is one giant con space that's right next to and attached to the main hotel, connected via a massive hallway that's air conditioned, has nice windows, it's all carpeted, so it's nice and clean. And you're going to find people just hanging around that giant hallway. Okay. because you take that hallway to get to dealers, you take it to get to the panel rooms, you take it to get to the rave. That one giant it's a very long hallway. I'd say it's probably about, over 1,000 feet in length. And you also have some DJs that pop up too, at like the little balconies that overhang. A majority of the time, if you want to find friends, just literally just sit right there by the escalators, or right in front of the dealers area, and you will find your friends that are just queuing up. Or even there's like some food options right next to it as well. It's not like it's segmented like Anthrocon, where they might be at the waterfront, they might be in the West End, they might be on the second floor of the con, they might be on the third floor of the con. It's not like that. There really is one giant concourse people walk through, and if you just stand there, you will find somebody that you know. I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we've invoked LVFC and how it's very similar to Megaplex. In my opinion, on a larger scale, Orlando is basically just Vegas, in the sense of it's more of the gateway kind of con, where you go to the con and then you have the entire vacation area around you that you can do. Like obviously in the case of Vegas, you go to the Strip, but that's pretty much where that would limit. And then you have whatever attractions. Whereas Orlando, you have everything there is to do out there. Pivoting a little bit, because you mentioned the Dealer's Den line, and that kind of got me thinking about FWA, because I realized one rumor that kind of kept coming back over and over with FWA was that a lot of people at that con basically showed up with just a fursuit on and didn't even reg for that con, which is why in most cases where all year long cons have been growing in size, FWA was the first time where I actually saw a smaller number than what had happened previously. So with that in mind, how important how seriously does the Megaplex take like registration security and that sort of thing, of making sure that everybody who's at the con is supposed to be there and has paid the ticket?
Yeah,
for sure. So ghosting, of course, is a very big problem with cons, as you can imagine. In my opinion, I am not a fan of people that do ghost conventions, because you might have your own reasons on why you do it, whether it be monetarily, or you just don't support the con, or you never get the value out of it. Regardless, by ghosting a con, in my opinion, you are using up resources that somebody else who would have bought a ticket to support the con is going to use. So I am not the biggest supporter of friends and tell me, oh, I'm just ghosting it this year, or oh, a friend's gonna lose their badge and I'm gonna take theirs. Don't do that, guys. Come on. I mean, if you paid all this money to get to a convention, even if you are never gonna go to dealers, even if you're not gonna go to a single panel, support the con. The biggest expense when a convention happens is the space that you are currently taking up, whether you know it or not. I've seen the bills the hotel charge. It is jaw-dropping, but they have to pay it, because otherwise they don't have a convention. Support them. It's not that expensive in the grand scheme of things, and you will, it's the right thing to do. But going forward with your question, in my opinion, about the same percentage of people that ghost FWA, I would say also ghost Megaplex, because the main things people do there, or at least not the majority, but what the con is known for, are the room parties and the pool. And you only need a hotel key card from the Hyatt, which you can, as long as your friend is in the block, which also you don't need a reg to be in the block, to my opinion. I don't believe you do. You as long as you have a hotel room, you can get in the pool, and to wander the halls of the hotel, you don't need to be registered. So therefore, unless you're going to the den, unless you're going to that main concourse I was telling you about, going to panels, you technically don't need to reg. So that, in my opinion, the numbers should be a lot higher than they should be for a con like FWA or Anthrocon.
That's interesting too, because I think of Anthrocon, and I think of Anthrocon as like the big con that people go to. They treat it like the mecca of the furry fandom. I need to go there at least once, pilgrimage, and you're never going to not register to go to Anthrocon for the history.
Of course, because there's not a lot happening in the West End.
Exactly, and you're going to Anthrocon as a fan of the furry fandom in general, like you're the super fan. That's why you're going to Anthrocon. Whereas if you're going to an FWA, an LVFC, a Megaplex, it's a vacation with a fursuit on. So you could see that would be a little more of a situation where people might be more inclined to ghost.
Of course. Also, a very small tangent. You mentioned earlier comparing Megaplex to LVFC. So again, I went to my first LVFC this year, had an amazing time. It was awesome. But a friend asked me, he's like, yo, man, you were at LVFC. What was it like? What was it like? And my perfect description, in my opinion, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, it's like if Megaplex was hosted in a Motel 6.
There are very real pros and cons to the venue at LVFC, not to get too much off Megaplex. The pro is that if you somehow get into that main hotel, it is super hard that everyone tries to get into main. Like all of my friends failed to get into main going into next year. They do the raffle so far in advance. But if you are able to get into main, you can just go right to your room. You can put your fursuit on. You can walk out, and you're there. And there's 1, 2, 3
Oh, it's awesome!
pools.
Yeah. I was in Alexis Park my
incredible.
first year, but the problem was the hotel is not very luxurious to the point
not
where
at all.
the
Not at
water
all.
cut off while my friend was mid-shower. He had shampoo in his hair. He couldn't wash out. We had to get water bottles. Anyway.
Oh my god,
man.
that is hilarious and does not surprise me at all. I'm waiting for the moment, and I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year, but there's so many hotels that are casino hotels that are around. Any single one of them just has to say, you know what, fine, bring the furries in. I mean, the Grand Sierra in Reno does it every year with VLFC. Like, there's already plenty of precedent to show that they don't have to worry about, cutting into gambling revenue or anything silly like that. That con is going to explode as well the instant they get into a bit. Like, they already did kind of explode. They grew by over 1,000 this last time anyway, which was fantastic. I was super glad to be there. But I think the moment they get in a real con, they're going to be in a power position.
I think they probably have about. I think I got 1 year left. I think about probably in the Alexis, and then going to be.
We'll save this for the LVFC episode.
Absolutely.
There we go.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, so just basically is there anything that what you think is going to bend the curve? So we've got the curve that Jack showed previously, which is just showing this really crazy exponential growth, 38 to 39% year over year for 2 straight years in a row. It sounds like capacity is not going to be a problem, especially with building those 2 new towers. The only thing in my research, I mean, obviously the weather, it's August in Orlando, and because of the air-conditioned corridors, which hopefully are air-conditioned a little bit better than that corridor at MFF that we all complain about.
Oh, God.
The only thing that I
Skybridge.
really could see that potentially could do anything, and I wanted your opinion on this, is that it appears in the past a lot of times Megaplex would target Labor Day weekend, because then you had that extra Monday that then people could have that extra day. They're all going to be off work to travel home and everything else. Do you think the date and the time of it this year is without that extra Labor Day Monday or that extra day off? Is that going to impact anybody's decision to come, you think, or?
I doubt it. I actually preferred it because I do get Labor Day off of work, but I know a lot of people were not a fan of it because sometimes they had to work and they wouldn't let them take off, and there was a whole big fighting from both ends. Oh, my country doesn't represent Labor Day, so why is it on Monday? Well, so last year, fun fact, the reason they had to do that weird Saturday to Monday thing was because the hotel messed up the bookings and they had a McDonald's founder conference that Friday. Long story, a lot of drama with that, but we're not going to do that again. In my opinion, though, I'm all for having cons on holidays, like Anthrocon on July 4th, Megaplex on Labor Day. I'm not a fan of FWA being on Mother's Day because I tell my mom, "Hey, Mom, I'm missing Mother's Day again. Sorry for being an animal in Atlanta." I don't think that would impact it too much, to be honest with you. In terms of your area to grow, what's really nice as well is that all of the entire hotel and convention center and hallways are meticulously air conditioned. It's Florida. We know how to do air conditioning down here. So therefore, if you are in the main hotel, just like FWA, you do not need to go outside for 4 days. Literally, there is enough food in the hotel, enough options. You could also get, delivery. The con space is attached. The dealer's den is attached. The raves are attached. The rooms are attached. Unless you're going to an outside hotel, you do not need to walk outside in the blazing Florida sun, unlike the original hotel, the Caribe Royale, which was cool hotel and concept, but you had to walk across a hot parking lot in the middle of Florida summer in a fursuit. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So I was at the Caribe my first year of my first Megaplex. But regardless of that, like I said,
I was going to ask, sorry to jump in, not to my inner Midwesterner is showing a little bit, which was the heat in Florida isn't the issue. The issue is that Florida is one of the most humid states in the country. So
the humidity gets you.
It gets you all the time. And now I'm in Vegas. It's almost better to go outdoors sometimes in fursuit, even if it's 90 degrees out, because there's such little humidity out there that it's better than being in your apartment where it's set to 40 to 50% humidity with the AC on. So
absolutely.
And with the geography of it as well. So I had mentioned earlier, I alluded to the the Orange County Convention Center. It is attached with a sky bridge to the main hotel. That is not air conditioned, but when they start adding in that convention center, there are other sky bridges that go from the convention center to the main hotel, but also from the convention center to the satellite hotels. So instead of having to cross the street, it is outdoors, but it is at least a little shaded. There will be a lot more accessibility from the satellite hotels to get to the main via crossing through the convention center sky bridges. So that also will help them as well growing because, we didn't get main, but it's just a quick sky bridge to there and a sky bridge to there, and you're home free. So it's not the end of the world. It helps them.
Yeah, and I'd say that I've seen that myself because I've gone to conventions where originally we were in the Hyatt, and that was fantastic for like a pharmacy convention or whatever the heck I was there for. And then we went to the next time I had to go to like a meeting or meet up with a college thing was over in the Rosen, but the Rosen is literally it's right there, and so you can walk outside, but there's also routes that you can walk inside if you want to get to the same place. So.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we're at a good point here where we can kind of start taking some guesses here. I think we know a pretty solid pros and cons list of things that could be impacting. Obviously, with pros, you've got the venue, you've got the traffic situation of Orlando, you've got things to do, you've got consistency with the venue, you've got future growth that it can expand into the convention center. There's a lot of things going for Orlando right now and going for Megaplex. The only real things that kind of fit in the con profile for me, and they're not even really huge, is the switching off a holiday. That might matter, that might not. There's also obviously controversies that we're not really going to talk about here. If you are you all probably know what I'm talking about, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, quick Google search Megaplex. You'd know. My recommendation on that, if you want a full sort of take on what's going on there, I would go and check my friend Rorschach. I would go check his Instagram. He has a pretty good post where he talks about basically what's going on there with the community rooms over at Megaplex, and we'll kind of leave it at that. That's not really our place to sort of weigh in on that, and
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that's going to affect the numbers at all. I think the people that are complaining about that, I think I heard Uncle Kage even say about Anthrocon one year when there was some controversy there. The people that were submitting that kind of feedback, the people that are the armchair, wanting the armchair con organizers, I guess you could say on Twitter or X or whatever, a lot of those people don't even come to the cons. So I'm just going to kind of ignore that for now.
A little bit of people that like to have some professional social media rage, and that's what they do in their free time.
Exactly.
But other than that,
Exactly.
I can't think of too many cons that are as in not pros, I should say, that are going to impact the attendance at this furry convention. Can you think of anything off the top of your head, Scruff? Otherwise, I think we're probably good to go.
I really can't. And after talking with Astra, I think even the things that we had talked about, because we had kind of pre-discussed what our guesses were going to be before the episode, even looking, we ran this, both myself and Jack are analysts by trade, and so we ran this through a couple of different models for looking at things like the CAGR and everything going up, and even our conservative and even our high, I think our high is too low.
I agree.
We were looking at
our high is too low. I've changed my guess during this episode.
I have changed.
Oh, can I predict the number? Am I allowed to do that?
Absolutely.
So what were they last year?
So last year they were
10,038.
10,038, but we have a little spreadsheet where we keep our score, but we also have the guests can guess as well. So if we have 10 different guests, and we'll see if all those 10 guests completely blow us out of the water, or I figure if you're more involved in the con, you're gonna have a better focus on it anyway, just from being on the inside.
I do, and while I am, like I said, on the con, I do not have access to registration numbers, so this is coming from just
experience. And I'm gonna. We said we were at 10,038 last year.
Yes.
12,491.
12,491. You heard it here first. That is Astra's prediction. The funny thing is that's actually a little lower than what my guess had been up to. My guess going into this episode, before we had sort of picked your brain on it, I was at about 12,600, and I'm not the one to prices right, people. I'm not gonna, that's not. I like to leave
$1.
I like to leave a fair amount of buffer between Scruff and I. So if it's anywhere in the middle, I could say well, there we are at that margin of error. In this case, I'm gonna up my guess, and I'm gonna go 13,200, which sounds a little aggressive, but the indicators are there that there's not going to be a lot holding the con back from a huge year.
You haven't given me a lot of room to work with here. I was
sorry.
gonna actually just based on no. I mean, so the thing is that the modeling and thing that I had done had a high range of around 12,300, which is basically very close to where you just landed, and that would represent 22.5% growth over last year. You've had two banger years of almost 38-39%, so it's I'm almost tempted to go up even above that. I just don't know if the con staff can actually support that or not. But it doesn't sound like there's much room for capping or anything else. It sounds like the sky's the limit here. So I'm gonna go with 12. What was yours again? I'm sorry.
12,491, I believe.
I think 391. I think
391
or 291.
Yeah, that's all right.
Somewhere around there.
I'll put it up on screen right here. Yeah.
Right, and you went with 13 too. I'm gonna go with 12.9.
12.9. That's a good one. That'll sort of cut down the middle here. So if it's a realistic expectation, then it'll be your win. It's just funny because I think Astra was coming in thinking that's a huge swing, and he's like, dang, these guys are are more optimistic than I am. What's going on here?
I normally go higher, but I've started to realize more and more that I do feel the Megaplex has a large ghosting problem that there's really no big solution to. And while I would even say that they probably have already hit that last year, 14,000. You're not going to see that reflected in the registration numbers, unfortunately. It's the only con that really doesn't have that problem is Anthrocon, and they've already kind of hit their cap. So while I do have a good idea of how many people are going to be there, I don't know how many people are actually going to spend the 80 or whatever dollars it is for registration.
Like I said, I've been guessing attendance on this on my own channel before we had this podcast. So for me, the big one that I got wrong on the conservative side was Furlandia and Anthro, Ohio. I actually guessed low on both of those. I think it was by 500 and 1,000 respectively. They both completely blew out of the water my expectations were, and I don't remember exactly the reasons why. I'd have to go review my own footage, but kind of the same applies here. FWA, like I said, is the only one that's come in below their previous number. I don't see any reason why Megaplex would do that in this case, so I feel pretty confident in my answer, especially because even with the ghosting problem, they've had parabolic growth the last 2 years.
Hovering around the same area.
Yeah.
So, right. So,
Also,
quick lightning round, Astra.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What does Megaplex do better than its size suggests?
Ooh, what does Megaplex do better than the size suggests? Good question. That's actually a really good question. I'm gonna say room parties. So the main thing is, if you want a good room party con, you have the staples. You think like FWA, you think like LVFC. At least FWA, in my opinion, is what people are known for as the room parties. The FWA rooms are tiny. Outside of the event suites, you really can't pack a room with more than like maybe 50 people without getting crowd crush. The Megaplex rooms are massive, and there are so many suites they have there that it really adds to it. That allows you to have so many themed parties. Now they're not like LVFC where they're open invite or they're very themed, but your group of people, you probably know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that can get you an invite to this party. So let's go to it. You know what I mean? So that, and just the elevators too, are also, there's really, as long as you're in like Tower B, there really is never a problem with elevators. They do handle them exceptionally well.
That's fantastic.
All right, so let's continue with this example I gave earlier of this hypothetical Astrocon. So you can take Astrocon and you can found it in any city you want, and let's pretend for this case it's going to support a minimum of 1,000 people. So no matter what, your first year it's going to get at least 1,000 people to show up. What kind of theme would you go for? What city would you pick, and what would your guest of honor be that you'd want?
Ooh, okay. So,
I
You can name it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be Astrocon. Just whatever you want it to be.
No. Let's do Astrocon. No.
So if I were to open up a convention that I knew would get a minimum of 1,000 people, in my opinion, the best bang for the buck and the best time anybody could have and all this stuff, I know it exists, but it's extremely tiny, and I'm not even sure if it's still around. I would do a furry cruise. Because think about it.
Oh.
You could have a cruise ship that easily supports 1,000 people, or have their own section of the boat roped off for the general populace. You have free food and free alcohol included with the price of your convention. You have general gathering areas that can have a rave every night. You could have a little dealer's den set up. The pictures. You go places. We could go to the Bahamas. We could go to St. Martin, you know what I mean? Like, the casino on board. Like, oh my God. Why is there no big convention? Like I said, there's been a small one I've heard, like, I forget what it's called, but I think they've had like 20 people or something, like a tiny little thing. But I want to see a furry cruise con out of the port of Miami.
Yeah.
It could work. I'm telling you, somebody out there, please make this happen.
Well, no, so it's you're planning it. Who do you pick as your guest of honor?
Oh, okay.
I would, for again, 1,000 people, I would want a big headliner to support the convention. So therefore, I would want somebody with a decent social media following that doesn't have too much controversy under their belt. Somebody that's a general known name in the fandom. Heck, I would shoot for the moon. And I would either probably say I'll go with one of the OGs. I'd go either Telephone or Majira. But if I wanted one of the newer ones, I would pick, I would say Milo, little alpha pup. He's done no wrong in my eyes. He's a good guy. I'd say Milo. He'd be a good guy. Plus, he could host shows at the con, too. He'd be singing in the lounge. It could be... Oh, yeah, no. Milo, you're coming to... what are we going to call this thing? I need a fun name. We're going to call it, like... Fur to Sea. I don't know. I'm just thinking of something off the top of my head.
The Alpha Liner Cruise or something.
Furry of the Seas or Fluff of the Seas. That Anthro of the Seas.
Fluff of
I
the
don't know.
Seas. Fluff of the Seas is good. I like that.
Thank you.
FOS.
Yes. So yeah, no, yeah.
FOS. That would be its acronym because we got to put.
Seriously,
an acronym on
team
all these.
like I know big cruise lines out there actually team up for special events to rent out the boat or partial boat. Like they have like EDC SEA, which is a EDM festival on water, and they have like nightly raves every night. They have like it's literally an EDM festival on water. I know Spicy Cruises, they have like through Norwegian, I think they have like adult only swinger cruises where there's like sex rooms set up and they have like, you go to different room parties that are just giant orgies and stuff like that. Like this could be a thing.
You guys are laughing. Like this could actually be a thing.
I'm not laughing. I'm nodding my head.
I think it absolutely
I'm nodding my head.
Yeah, no, like
could.
This could literally, and think about it, like I said, in your ticket, your reg, you have your food is included, your drinks are included, the Wi-Fi is included. You know what I mean? Like dealers, then everyone on board has registration. So it would be, oh man, it'd be annoying as hell to get dealers on board. But still, this could be a thing.
Right, there'd be no ghosting because you can't. What are you gonna do? Like drive up and
you'd be a stowaway.
So the dealers thing. So hear me out. To add to that, you take the dealers portion and you do that at your home port. So before people get on, they have a chance to go to the dealers. That you got 4 hours to board, so you could do the dealers.
I don't think that would work.
You don't think so?
If you ever run a cruise, the cruise terminal, there's really nothing around the terminal area where they could do something like that.
Yeah, no, good point. Good point.
No, I think they would just have to bring a crap ton of luggage, to be honest with you, and just have something with the con where if you're a dealer, you get like, 4 or 5 plus bags included. Plus, there aren't normally big ballrooms to have like, there's like, theaters, but there isn't big ballrooms to have like, dealers areas in. So I would think they would do it like a Brazil thing where it's just like a small little bazaar for like one day or something like that. I could see that.
Now, if the attendance.
Yeah, that's such a good idea, actually. I should run with that.
I do like someone needs to look into this soon. I'm trying
to remember the name of it, but I know there is a furry convention where they've done like a group block at cons where it's only been like 20 people or so, but this should really be a thing, man. Oh man, the gears are turning.
All right. You heard it first here, guys. We got to get on this. If anybody's a suspiciously wealthy furry that happens to, own a cruise line.
One last question I forgot to ask that is more con staff related. Are there any positions that usually come with being involved with the staff, such as volunteering, DJs, panels, hosting, that sort of thing? Are there anything that comes with those that are usually harder to fill than others, or is that usually something where usually just they're overflowing with applications more than they can handle?
Actually, it's the opposite. Most cons are biting at the bit for staff. They'll take what they can get. In my opinion, what the best kept secret in the furry fandom is people all the time love to scream and yell, oh my god, I didn't get the Westin at Anthrocon, I didn't get, the Hyatt at MFF, oh, I'm not going to this con's rigged, I never get it, I've been in the lottery X times. Join staff. Doesn't ask a lot, and you get so many cool perks just by giving back to the con. You get free reg, you get early access to the hotel, you sometimes get discounted rooms, you get a staff buffet, you get free drinks, you get really cool swag. I got Megaplex engraved shot glasses. I got like an Anthrocon mouse plaid, and like what's some other cool stuff I had from Anthrocon? Really cool stuff. Seriously, the best kept secret is if you want to get, in the main hotel, you enjoy cons so much, but you hate having to fight tooth and nail for the lottery, you will know you have your room weeks before the lottery even goes out. Just join staff. You give back to the con in so many ways that really does not take up your whole convention. And just by giving them a few hours of your time or even a few days before or after the convention, everything is needed, whether it be helping with, rigging and setting up the lighting and the audio visual for the rave, crowd control, helping people get in line for registration, the headless lounge, setting up fans, social media, making posts, even working on the hotel and working with the hotel as a liaison. Some of my best friends work for the hotel for the FWA, and you could just be the point of contact with them, or there's safety. People are needing an ambulance called, or you need to bring somebody water, or somebody's not feeling too well, and help this person. It really helps to give back to the fandom more than you could ever imagine, and you get all those perks associated with it. Join staff, just apply, and if they say no, cool, volunteer. They'll never say no to volunteers, especially at Megaplex, which is actually one of the most staff-starved conventions because it takes a lot of staff and there's not many people who sign up for it. Join staff. Megaplex is hiring for literally every single department, I promise.
So if someone is interested in joining staff or alternatively just volunteering at Megaplex, what's the best resource to reach out through? Do they go to the Megaplex website, or how would they
go to the website? At the top right, you'll see Help Out, and then you'll see a staff app, and you'll see a volunteer app. Difference is staff gets all those major perks, like I said, where you get like the staff block, you get discounts, you get cool swag. Volunteering, they give you other things too. I think that they give you like lesser swag. They give you I think a certain amount of hours gives you certain things. And I will tell you also one very interesting thing that I forgot to touch on. To date, to my knowledge, Megaplex is the only con where if you host a panel, they give you a discount on next year's reg. I have never seen that at another con where I've hosted panels beforehand, and it is a great idea in my opinion.
I agree with that entirely, and honestly, you've probably had the best pitch to join staff that I've heard in a while. So I may have
I'm
to.
ready to buy a ticket to Megaplex now.
I might need to add some cons to my calendar and start staffing a little more. But
seriously, no, it's a really great thing to get back. It's a really, really great thing to get back.
Absolutely. So in any case, I think that about wraps us up on the hour here. So once again, thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back with this podcast roughly every 2 to 3 weeks as we cover future cons. We try to do them in blocks. I know that the whole Denver thing, we may have an episode come out earlier. We'll figure that out, or we won't.
We'll figure it out.
Where is everyone able to find you on socials? Obviously, it'll be in the description of every platform we have, but in general.
Oh god, you guys are gonna hate me.
So small note. My biggest tip if you're trying to make content in the fandom is find a username that you can use across all platforms. Otherwise, you're gonna end up like me. Ahem. TikTok, astra.the.kitty. Instagram, Astra__. YouTube, @AstraKitty. Twitter, @Astra_the_kitty. Facebook, I think I'm Astra Kitty on there. Blue Sky, I think I'm as well Astra Kitty.
Just search Astra and just pick
It'll all
the
be there.
Galaxy
Your link
cat.
tree or
You'll
whatever
find
you
me.
use will all be there as well, yeah.
Either that or the one who is at Astra Bia is a beer company in Germany. I have more followers than them, so haha.
Scruff, you can be found on pretty much @Scruff or @Scruff_rack or Scruff rack.
There's no underscore. It's just Scruff rack.
I think it's YouTube. Or I think it's YouTube. You have underscore, but that's a new account, so it doesn't.
I think I have it on.
It doesn't matter. And then obviously you can find me at Jaktmfd on all platforms because nobody thought to put TMFD after just a regular word, so makes it really easy to find me. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Are there any final thoughts for anybody before we take off? Or are we good?
Meow.
Meow. You heard it here. You heard it here. Y'all have a good one. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Meow meow.